yeah, we are the adults now. Like, we're the only ones that we are waiting for. So I think, like, ask yourself what the urgency is, and it's probably pretty serious because it's a dumpster fire out there. And then figure out, like, is there a training? Do you want to jump right in for the one-on-one? DM us on Instagram. But I think find out that right size first step, and we'll help guide you the rest of the way.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to One Quick Thing. We're so excited to see you guys here today. Grab a seat if you want. There's a couple of stools over here. We got one more seat in the front if you want to look up our noses. As always, I'm very anxious about the chairs. I want to make sure everyone has a seat for their butt if they want one. So welcome. We're glad to have you here tonight.
We are so excited for you to meet 603 Forward. They're just absolutely incredible, and we can't stop bragging about the fact that they came on our podcast. And so before we get started and introduce them, we just want to acknowledge that it is Trans Day of Visibility, and we are hoping that everyone is today and every day giving lots of love to all of their trans and non-binary friends and community members.
We appreciate everybody that is part of the trans community that's here as part of our community as well. And I hope you know you can always kind of count on us to be loud advocates whenever possible. And I encourage everybody else in the room to do the same. I think that needs to be, especially here in New Hampshire, it's like crucially important that that is at the front of mind for people as you're moving through your life politically and just in your normal day-to-day life. So thank you for spending your Trans Day of Visibility here with us. And we appreciate you guys. So thank you.
All right, and we would like to welcome Matt and Beck from 603 Forward to the stage.
Woo! Woo! Our first guests on the purple couch. We have a new format.
What do we think, everyone?
Do you guys like the couch? Yeah, I feel like it's better,
cozy.
right?
Amazing.
We also did, you like the bistro seating better than this, I don't know. Give me your feedback later. We're trying some new stuff tonight.
Making it like as chill as humanly possible for our own anxiety. All right, so we're so excited to have you both here. Before we dive into the topic, Beck, would you like to start and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you got involved, and then how you got into 603 Forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Beck. I use they, them pronouns. I grew up in Campton, which is just north of Plymouth. Small town, about 3,000 people. My family's been there for years. I grew up in a pretty conservative house as a little baby queer, so I didn't really get involved politically until like college, so I didn't really feel like I could. And then, just the most classic thing happened. I had a friend who was a student fellow on the coordinated campaign on campus, needed to hit a quota for how many volunteers they had shifted, so I volunteered, then I became a student fellow, and then I started working for the House Caucus in 2022, working with House candidates, and really just learned that that's where my heart is working directly with the candidates, but also working with the down ballot candidates. And then after working with the House Caucus, I had the opportunity to work with 603 Forward, doing more work with House candidates, but also with even further down ballot with those like school board, city council, town council, all of those, which is just, that's where it's at. So yeah, that's how I'm here.
Incredible. Thank you. Matt?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. This is so cool. My name's Matt Mushian. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the program director with 603 Forward. And I always tell folks, my story really started when I was younger. My brother and I used to spend all of our summers with our grandmother, and she was always very civically engaged. She was one of those people who listened to talk radio all the time. She always volunteered at her polling location until COVID, and it got a little dicey. And just a couple weeks ago, I was talking to her about some tenant organizing group she's getting to be part of in her building. So that was really my influence, and I saw from a young age not just the value, but the impact that getting involved can have. She had so many friends and connections she made from that work. And I grew up in Newport, New Hampshire. Shout out, go Tigers. And, I always, growing up, thought I wanted to be a teacher, wanted to go into education. And at a certain point, you become kind of aware of the flawed school funding situation here in New Hampshire. Like growing up and seeing the district next door have all this fancy gear for their school team, as their ski team, as my parents are sending me to school with like reams of paper. And so, as I went into college and just got more connected, similarly, a good organizer connected me with Save the Children Action Network, Go Scan. And that was really where I started to build my tools and my toolbox of an advocate and really developing leaders. And around that same time, kind of trigger warning, it was the 2016 election. So I got the experience to work on a ton of different campaigns. And throughout all of that, it really just became so clear to me that, like, if we really want to see solutions to the problems that young people are facing in New Hampshire, we really do need to have more working young folks with a seat at the table. And now I'm super excited and honored every day to be part of the 603 Forward team, where we are working to build skills and develop leaders and tell folks, hey, you should run for office, because it's really, I think, how we're gonna build that New Hampshire where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. So super excited to talk about more of that stuff with you guys tonight. Thank you again. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. And I'm so excited to hear about more folks now that are getting involved younger and younger in local politics. And so it's really refreshing to hear that, like, there are more. It's kind of a snowball effect now. I would love to hear what 603 Forward is for anybody who hasn't heard of it before.
Yeah. So at 603 Forward, we always say that we are a one-stop shop for people who want to make a change in their community. We were founded in about 2020 really to identify, train, recruit, and build the next generation of leadership in New Hampshire, because we know that young working folks in New Hampshire are being crushed. I mean, the cost of living continues to climb. Access to affordable, safe housing is harder than ever. To be able to find affordable childcare, most of the state is in a childcare desert. These are real issues that young folks, everyone in New Hampshire is facing. But our theory of change at 603 Forward is just what I said, that if we can work to train and elect more young folks have a seat at the table, that we can make an impact on all of those things and build a New Hampshire where everyone can get ahead. And we do that by finding folks and helping them to work on the things that they care most about. We've helped folks in Milford organize around school board, like bathroom, book ban type of bullshit. We've helped folks organize around zoning changes. Really, it's like, what do you care most about and what's gonna help you make an impact in your community and help you become a leader. And we also offer a lot of, it's really what we specialize in, a lot of candidate support with direct one-on-ones, training opportunities, and everything, really everything, that anyone who's going to run for any office, elected or appointed in New Hampshire, would need to run a strong campaign. So yeah, 603 Forward is a one-stop shop for anyone who wants to make a change in their community, whether it's showing up at your city hall or the state house to testify, organizing your neighbors, or jumping in to run for office, which you should all think about doing. We're here for it all.
I just want to interject real quick and say we are going to save time at the end to ask these guys questions, because I feel like this one, y'all are going to have some questions. So start noodling on it, and we'll save time at the end. I think it's so cool what you guys, you have such a breadth of stuff that you do, and I think it's really, you guys are an amazing resource.
Yeah, thank you so much for telling us more about 603 Forward. So I think that a lot of people hear this often, probably, like, you're so involved in the community, you should be running for something. And I think a lot of us, I say us because I definitely hear it from Marissa often. And I just shut her down hard with a no.
Well, can we drop Emily lore, though? Can we take a minute to do Emily lore?
If it helps get her to run for office, yes.
Why do I bother you for it, Emily?
Don't know. Well, so similar to you two, I got involved at a young age in politics. This is going to age me, but when I was a freshman in high school, I volunteered for the John Edwards campaign.
Shout out.
And once I got a taste for the primary season, I couldn't get enough. And so I was working on some state senate campaigns through high school. Then I graduated early to go to UNH as a political science major. And as we chatted about, I realized that I cared more about sort of the micro work rather than macro, changed to social work, but still continue to work in local politics. And then, now here we are.
There's a chance.
There's not. But for anybody here who isn't as firm of a no as me, I would love to hear, what kind of folks you meet and think, oh my gosh, they should absolutely run. What are the qualities that you see in those people that would really make a great candidate?
Yeah, I think it's important, or like one of the big things, right, is that a lot of times the best candidate isn't the one that's the first to raise their hand and be like, yeah, I'm the one that's the right person for this job. The people that are, like, if the goal is to have a more reflective democracy, a better representation, more diverse voices at the table, we have to ask and find those people. And they exist. But it does take a lot more. It's a bigger ask, right, to ask somebody from a marginalized community to put themselves out there like that. And studies have shown that it takes at least twice as many times to ask them to get them to say yes. So I think somebody who is, and not necessarily doing inherently political work, right, like organizing around, there was like a library situation in one town, or like the community garden, or like things like that. People who are taking some sort of initiative in their community. And those are the people that we're looking for. And then the people that other people are saying would make a good candidate, those are the people that we're looking for too. But it is about like planting the seed. Like very rarely do you say to somebody, you should run for office. Are you gonna run for office? And they're immediately like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. That's maybe even a little bit of a red flag.
I was just going to say, I feel like those are probably the people you're like, ooh, never mind.
Yeah.
Too eager.
Because you haven't thought about like the gravity of what you're doing, the practicality, the logistics, all of those things. And so I think it's important to plant the seed, encourage, nurture, and support. And then once they say yes, or they say like, yeah, you know what, strong maybe, stick with them and stay with them through the whole time so that they don't feel like they're on campaign island doing it by themselves or not doing it for the people, So I think the community is really at the core of it.
And like Beck said, a lot of times these people aren't going to be doing inherently political work. So like think about the groups that you're a part of. I'm a member of the Friends of the Fisk Free Library in Claremont. And for me, it's like, who are the people who are helping get us organized, move things forward, who are not afraid to maybe put themselves out there? I also think about a friend of mine, his mom still is in the town we grew up in Newport, and to return back to our chronically underfunded thing about Newport, like the athletics need a lot of support. So she and a group of folks pulled together a booster club to be able to really give that support to our athletes and make sure kids had the same resources and opportunities that other folks have that they definitely deserve. And I look for those folks, and a lot of times it is going to take a few asks. It's going to take a little bit before they really start thinking about themselves that way. But that's also where, like, think about the people in their circles and who else can you talk to get them? Like, kids, friends, other people on the committee. Because those are the folks I think also our communities are looking for, the people who are doing really good work anyway. But maybe just everyone doesn't know what their name is yet.
I think that's so interesting. Like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about interactions I have with people in my day-to-day life that are not super engaged politically, but oftentimes are probably the people that you're describing, that are like taking these leadership roles in different ways throughout the community that maybe is a little bit untraditional and not what you think of. And this kind of segues into our next question about like, what are some of the specific objections you get from people? But I think maybe to start that specifically, like, how do you work with people who maybe are coming in and saying, I've never thought about running for office, but like shit is on fire right now, and so I feel like I should. How do you start bringing that, getting over that hump of like, I'm not a politics person?
Yeah, I think the first barrier is those objections, right? And I think one of the most common ones that we hear is, well, I'm not qualified. I'm not smart enough. I'm not the right person for this. And like, guys,
do you see some of the stuff that comes out of our state house? Like,
do you think
the bar isn't super high?
Do you think any of those people have had that moment of introspection before? I mean, so like that one immediately, like you do not need a law degree. You do not need years and years and years of political experience to run for an office like state house, state rep. Certainly not for like school board, and like not to like discredit those things. Those things are cool and important and take a lot of time. Yes, very valid, but they're not like the end all be all. So like that's the first big one, is the like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not qualified. I think another really big common one is, well, I don't have the money for that, and like, no, that's a lot of money. You don't have no. And my response to that is always, you do not have to self-fund your campaign. You could absolutely raise the money that you need to run a winning, successful, strategic campaign as a state representative. It obviously varies from district to district, like where you are, how big your town is, how big your district is, how many people are you able to knock doors versus are you going to have to do more mail, those kinds of things. But like, you can really easily fundraise the money that you need to run a campaign. And we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars by any means. We're talking like anywhere from like $1,500 to $6,000, somewhere in there, maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
That's less than I would have thought.
Yeah. And I think just like sharing that information helps remove that barrier for folks as well. And then I think another common one, especially now when like things feel so like, is that they're like, well, I'm not going to win. And sometimes that's real. And I get that, but it's really important to, first of all, voters deserve a choice, so give them that choice. Second of all, just by running and doing the thing of going out and talking to your community members, talking to your neighbors, you're moving that conversation forward. So it doesn't matter if you're going to win. I mean, yeah, that would be great, but you're building yourself a base. You're building a base for the next person who's going to run the next time around. You're also showing people that, oh, that person put themselves out there like that in this red town that I didn't think was gonna, like, I didn't think anybody would put themselves out there like that. And that's really inspiring and does inspire other people to do it next time, or to run for school board, or to run for town council or budget committee, you know? So I don't think the win should be the goal. Obviously, it's, you know, a goal, important, would be great. But really, it's about you're doing the thing for your community. You're building the community with your campaign and moving that conversation forward.
And I think too, like when it's like that, like you might not do politics, but politics is going to do you, babe. And like reminding people that is real. It's like when you have a friend and they broke up with someone and you have to remind them of the bad stuff. Like truly, like remembering the stuff that pisses you off is going to be what pushes you over the line. If you're pissed off, run for office. And I think too, like think about all the stuff that's going on. New Hampshire's becoming a tax haven for millionaires and corporations. Every single day, it's like there's a new attack on our liberties and dignities. The list goes on. And we do need people who are gonna like step up and pick one of those things. You don't have to be here for maybe like sign up for all of it, but like what's the thing that's really gonna like, that's really firing you up? And you really should throw your hat in the ring to run for office, because listen, it's all important, but like I'm gonna say it, in the hierarchy of like what's gonna make the most impact, having a seat at the table is what's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is like important piece to hold on to.
I love that. There's a couple of threads that you guys brought up that I wanted to pull on. And the first was this idea of all of the additional benefits that come when you run in a red area. And so here in Dover, obviously, we're in people tell me all the time from all over the state, you're in a bubble down there in the Seacoast, which I very much understand and it's very real. some of these towns, it's so incredibly difficult. And I think it's like feeling really difficult for people to even exist in these towns sometimes right now. It's like you're feeling just surrounded by that. And so I imagine it's quite powerful if somebody does run in a race that often is uncontested to see, oh, wow, that person got 800 votes. Like, there's 800 people here who think like I do. Like, I think there's probably all these ripple effects that come that people maybe aren't even thinking of. And then I wanted to ask specifically about state reps specifically. So for those who don't know in this room, our state representatives make about $100 a year, which is like so stupid, right? It's like really insane and it's prohibitive. People working, it's very, very hard for working people who don't have their, independent income streams of some kind to like do this. So can you talk a little bit about maybe, are there examples of people who what are some types of people maybe who aren't thinking about running for state rep that should?
Yeah, so like the ones that are probably the most like immediately easy to navigate, and easy with a grain of salt, are people that are stay-at-home parents, sometimes can have good luck, people who work from home or work hybrid, people who are self-employed. I've worked with a couple of candidates that are personal trainers and they work for themselves, and that has worked out really well for them. And yeah, I think like the thing with like working age people is that it is inherently going to be harder to make that work, but there are the people that can make it work, and if we get enough of them at the table, then they can change the rules and allow for things like remote voting or other ledge reform things that are not coming to mind.
A topic we've explored many times, as you can tell. One story that comes to my mind is State Representative Jessica Grill in Manchester, who works remotely and works for an agency doing something, but is able to like move her schedule around so that she can take committee meetings. I've been at the House during the day, and she's literally like out in the hallway on a work call really quick, and like you could totally make that work. I also think like bartenders, baristas, like those types of folks. I mean, like. AOC's in Congress, she was a bartender before that, a waitress. Like, those folks have tons of experience. They have maybe the type of schedule that allows them to do that kind of stuff during the day, really thinking creatively. But
talking to people, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like Beck said, if we're able to get more folks who are working parents, who are young folks balancing their career and their work, then we can start to explore things like remote access or changing schedules to allow them to be more flexible, or allowing proxy voting, or a whole slew of things. 603 Forward and our partner organization, our sister organization, the Ford Foundation, a couple of years ago commissioned a study on the legislature and how it could be, first, how there are barriers to young people serving, and then what we could do about them. And we are super excited to hopefully have like a pro-reform majority one day that would really seriously be willing to look at some of that stuff. But yeah, I think in terms of like who we're going to get there, we do have to think about a little bit more creatively the folks who have a schedule that does allow them to like go to Concord on a Thursday and maybe be there all day to vote on stuff. It takes a little bit of thinking.
I think it's so refreshing hearing you talk about this. And just like as you were talking about the qualifications, to me it felt insurmountable for so long. And now I'm like looking around the room, and I think that every single one of us is qualified in here. And like at the bare minimum, we all care very deeply about our community. And so, like, you're jazzing me up now.
Sorry, but we do have a saying. Our saying is always like the two qualifications are that you care, you give a shit, and that you're willing to show up and do the work. And like that is true.
Right. I mean, like, so many people just showed up here right now. And so obviously with time constraints being difficult for some people, hearing the different kinds of jobs that folks have that make it possible is really incredible to hear. And it's not just, this idea that we've thought of for so long of, attorneys or, the other professions that we're not thinking of ourselves fitting into that role. So let's say, hypothetically, someone in this room is like, okay, you know what? You convinced me, I'm gonna run, and they come to you. What does that look like? like working together?
Yeah, so usually there's two types of scenarios. One, they've already got an office in mind. Like, say, this year, for example, they want to run for state rep. That's easy because we can just, okay, well, here's the timeline. And these are like logistically, here are all of the trainings and resources that we can offer. This is what happens after the filing period happens. And, you know, what do you need? How can we like work with you to help build a campaign plan for the entirety of your campaign that works around whatever chaos you have going on in your life? If that's like a busy kids schedule, we're talking about the summer here too. Like that, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so being there, if needed, to help them like build that entire, like work backwards from election day and really build out the whole thing, to be like, well, I know I'm going to be on vacation this week, so I'm going to hit extra doors this weekend instead, or something, whatever. So that's like one thing that happens. If they've got an office locked in, then we can, okay, great. So this is all the logistics, and we can kind of just go ahead. If they come to me and they're like, I gotta do something, but I don't know what it's gonna be, then we get to play a little bit of a matchmaking game. And talk about what's got you here, what's like fired you up enough to come here and have this conversation with us. What are the issues that you really care about, issues that you know a lot about, and then talk like logistically, what are your like time constraints and things like that. Because it's not just State House, right? Like there's literally over 1,000 offices up for election every year in New Hampshire. And there's lots of, and that's just the elected ones, right? Like there's all those appointed positions that still have a lot of local power. So based on like whatever their like top issues are, whatever their time constraints are, maybe this board, maybe the Arts Commission board that only meets once a month is where you can have the best impact and have the most value. Or maybe you have a lot more time and you would be really good to run for city council. Or a school board or something, like a little bit of a higher office. Maybe we go for mayor, you know, like maybe that works. It really is like about, like there's no like cookie cutter, I think is really what it comes down to, is it's about, making the plan for the person and what's gonna do, where they feel like they can contribute the best and the most, and where they are gonna get the most value out of that too.
You mentioned a bunch of different positions too, and it reminded me, like I think when we think about running for office, a lot of times if we're not highly engaged politically, we're thinking about state rep or state senate or things like that, or even city council. But like there's positions that you show up once a month or less, you know? And so can you talk a little bit about, there's sort of like a spectrum of work people can do?
Yeah, so like a lot of the appointed boards really meet like once a month, and I can even like help you find exactly like, okay, it's the third Wednesday of the month every month except for this week in July because they take a summer break. Like we can figure all that out. But then there are like town council or select board or city council. Those ones tend to meet more like weekly. And then you go to like State House where they can meet upwards of like 2 or 3 times a week, but only for like 6 months, but also asterisks, sometimes they meet extra times. So it's, you know, there is quite a spectrum, like you said, yeah.
And also what we think of, what you're also speaking to is what we think of as our like pipeline, and that a great way to get people, recruitment's happening all the time. So a great way to get someone who you want to run for office, maybe not in 2026, but 2028, is to start thinking about an appointed position or a local office that they could run for and really make an impact and raise their profile. A great story of this is Bow select person Elena Colby, who ran for select board, amazing, and ran for State House and was just reelected to, I think, her second term on the select board, and will hopefully run for reelection again to State House. And you know, really like creating that on-ramp for someone to see what the work is like and to see that, you don't have to be a policy expert or an expert in Robert's Rules of Order or an expert in any of these things. You just have to care and be willing to show up and do it. And that exists in library trustees and city councils and everything. So that pipeline is also a really helpful way, if you're out in your own community thinking of people, like how can you get them into that pipeline? How can you on-ramp them to maybe one day being your state rep or your state senator?
I think with those positions too, like so many of us don't think about that naturally, I guess, or it doesn't like dawn on you naturally. But what I say, what I say to people a lot is like, we're the adults in the room now. Like, I think a lot of times, you know, speaking on behalf of like, I'm a millennial, I think a lot of us are kind of still have this almost like stunted thing where we're like, oh, well, that's for like grown-ups and I'm just over here. I'm just trying to manage my toddler, whatever it is. But like, no, like we have to be the grown-ups now. We have to be on the select, we have to know what the select board is. I need to Google it. You know what I mean? Like it's our turn to kind of step up to that point, whether we want to or not.
So you had mentioned that previously you could only help folks up until they filed, correct? But now there's a new program. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're really excited to be able to now be able to offer some support to candidates right up until Election Day through our Run Club cohort. So basically, folks who are thinking about running for office, definitely going to run for office, if you sign up to attend 5 of our Run For It trainings, it makes you eligible to be part of what we call as our Run Club, which is a cohort of working age folks running for state rep, and it also gives you access to a ton of supports that like from canvassing to digital supports, all that kind of stuff, even just being able to like call us up and text us and ask us a question. And before, there was a lot of hurdles to be able to offer something like that, and this is the first year we're able to offer that programming. And it's really exciting for us to not only be able to support the candidates, but also to help them like build that cohort of themselves, so when they get elected and they are all at the State House, they have that camaraderie to come back to, and they have each other and the skills they built to really help navigate that system.
That's such a cool program. And it's a cute name, Run Club. Love it.
Thanks. And for the incumbents, we have the Varsity Squad. Ooh, yes. Thank you for the response.
We love an aesthetic. We love a name.
Branding, you know.
Very important.
The Varsity Squad is important, though, because they're there for mentorship, which is really, and they're all so excited to offer that as well. So, but yeah.
We have a ton of
Varsity
candidates who have run in really hard districts, really hard races, and been successful and have a wealth of knowledge. So it's really important to be able to say, like, how can this group of people not only tap into us, but like all the candidates who came before them and know exactly what they're doing too. So
I was going to say, you guys must have a pretty good community at this point of people who have run with you, and I imagine that's really valuable. Again, like my brain keeps kind of going back to these really red areas of the state, and you know how often I hear from people that are like, there's nobody like me in this town, nobody agrees with me, and I bet it's really valuable to be able to sit down and say, hey, actually this person ran a campaign and maybe they didn't win, but they can talk about all the things that they learned. So yeah, do you feel like there's a little bit of community that happens with the working age people that you guys are supporting?
Yeah, absolutely. Then that's like the goal of what we're trying to build too, right? And I know Representative Crystal Lloyd from Nashua talks about how when she ran the first time in 2022, she came to our big in-person training and met a bunch of other candidates that she didn't know, and then cut to organization day. They've all won their races, they're getting sworn in, and they're all sitting there like, we were all at that training together, that's so cool. And they had this little like group together. So we're trying to really like focus on that and build more of that. We're gonna have a Discord as part of it too, so folks can like chat and spitball and all those things. But yeah.
one of my favorite things is when we have like events and state reps or electeds come and they talk, they're like, well, I was just a panel on this 603 Forward event. But like it is building this community of them where they get to, check in with each other and like stay in touch with us too. And it's really important for us to also like continue to give them those opportunities to speak to other future potential candidates, to come speak about some niche issue policy thing maybe that they're working on at the State House. And it also continues their like camaraderie again, like they connect and they get to connect about what events they've been part of. So I think one thing we're also always looking to do is create more opportunities for that. And that's again, like what we're hoping Run Club can really be. But I love hearing all the stories of them connecting.
Thank you so much for what you do. I mean, it's like not only are you making a difference in those candidates' lives, but then ours by proxy because we're getting so many more people to represent us that we want in office because they're feeling uplifted and supported enough to do so. I know that we're definitely going to have folks that want to ask you questions, but I wanted to say if there's a listener or somebody in this room who's constantly told that they should run and they haven't even gotten to the point where they are going to come to you and say, all right, I'm ready. What would you tell them to do today? What are some small actions they could do to get themselves more ready?
I mean, I would say run for it. Like, do it. Just jump in. But one thing I always think about is like, what's the right entry point for someone? So if you're like, my hair's on fire, this is so crazy, I'm running for this, schedule a one-on-one with Beck or myself immediately. We'll help map this out. If you're someone who is maybe more like, I'm thinking about this, I want to do it, just look at our website, what training sounds most interesting to you, and jump in there. I think sometimes just being in these spaces where we're hearing these things and we're getting familiar with these concepts, we're hearing the chatter of other people is really helpful. But I think you got to do something. And yeah, we are the adults now. Like, we're the only ones that we are waiting for. So I think, like, ask yourself what the urgency is, and it's probably pretty serious because it's a dumpster fire out there. And then figure out, like, is there a training? Do you want to jump right in for the one-on-one? DM us on Instagram. But I think find out that right size first step, and we'll help guide you the rest of the way. But it really is important that you really ask yourself and then do something.
And hey, if you just DM you guys on Instagram, you're talking to Sarah, who's right here in the front. So friendly face. So yeah, we are going to open up for questions. If you've got a short one, raise your hand, and I'll just repeat it in the mic. But if you want to come down and grab the mic, you're welcome to do that too. So any questions? Before, I'll give you guys a second to think about it. Our friend Hazel behind the bar is a brand new lawyer. Just got sworn in today. So just a reminder to tip your bartenders tonight, and we are celebrating. So,
Period.
Cool. All right, guys. Any questions for these folks? Yeah, Sinahan. Do you want to come up?
It's a short one.
All right, give it to me.
Do you only work with Democrats or will you work with independents?
Do you only work with Democrats or do you work with independents?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. We are a nonpartisan, non-party affiliated organization, so we are happy to work with anybody of any party that is values aligned.
Yeah, we've worked with Democrats, Republicans, Independents. It's really just that value alignment.
So Sinahan's on TikTok. If you guys are on our NH Talk space, you've probably seen her face, and is doing a lot of great work. It lives in one of those very red areas and is doing a lot of work talking about these local elections. And one of the things that you've been talking about that I think is really helpful is we're in this like crisis with the Free State movement right now, and like a lot of the people in your town are realizing how intense that is getting, and there is space for people who are independent, who are maybe more of a moderate, but they're more likely to win than a Democrat. And so supporting these people who are independent and aren't quite as extreme as there, it seems like there is sort of some room there to like start making incremental changes in these towns that view themselves as deep red.
Mm-hmm. And the local offices too, the town offices are all nonpartisan, so it doesn't have to be about like just leave that at the curb. We don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about the party politics. We can just keep it all about the issues, and I think that's really beautiful.
That's so cool. Do we have any other questions out there? We're also going to come down and chat. Jesse.
So if there were hypothetically a person who was like, okay, I actually think I could do the part of the job, but running sounds like a nightmare. What
So-
would you say to them?
I'm going to just repeat it for folks on the stream and for the recording too, is like, if you're like, okay, I could do the job, but running sounds like a nightmare and running for office sounds truly terrible. I think probably a lot of people feel that way. How do you kind of work through that with people?
Listen, I don't lie to people. It is scary. I've run for office myself. I was elected. I was city councilor in Claremont, where I live, and it is hard work. But I think the thing is like you find all of these like little nuggets along the way that really make it worthwhile. Like it's actually, I don't think there's anyone who's like, I love knocking doors. It's so fun. But when I was out canvassing, I met this woman who was on a ladder trying to change a light bulb in her like doorway, and I was like, get down, I'll help you. And then we had lemonade, had this incredible interaction, and there were so many of those little things along the way that really make it worth it. And then I also think like the community is really the best part. I mean, the community of folks who are like working to make New Hampshire better and who are running for office are endlessly inspiring, and also I think have so many of their own like tips and tricks to help you get through it. But like, I'm not a fan of sugarcoating and lying. It is hard work, but it's important work, and you can do it, and you're gonna find lots of things along the way that you're gonna be like, I'm so glad I did this, and it was so fun. And also, like, all the connections you meet are it's endlessly rewarding. So, and then my last funny story about this is I grew up with my dad was a plumber. So driving around the neighborhood, he would always be like, I've worked in that house, I've fixed that house. And that's like me in my neighborhood now. I'm like, I've knocked on that door, I know that person. But it also really does come to benefit in the long run when you're getting involved in any other community groups, or even just needing to know who the people in your neighborhood are should something happen. So it's hard work, but it's good work.
I think the other piece, too, with campaigning is that you really can't do it alone. And it's really important to build a support system around you, if that's your partner, your closest friends, but also like volunteers that are willing to volunteer regularly and do things like stamp postcards, address postcards, drive you to the doors so you can just jump out and hit the doors, cuts the time in half. Watch your kids while you're going to knock on doors or go to a community event or something like that. But just it's really important to build that support base around yourself and to build yourself a team and then use the team. So you're not doing it all alone. It's a lot of work to do it by yourself. Can't do it.
Love that. All right, who else we got? Anybody hiding back in there? Yeah, we got one back here.
Yeah, could you just say more about what sort of training and support you offer to folks that go into the next level of detail? It sounds like canvassing or matching people up with something that might be a good fit for them. Can you just say more about what sort of support you offer?
Yeah, so the question is about a little bit more specificity about what support you guys are able to offer to folks.
Yeah, so the one-on-one support, which could be anything, could be building a campaign plan, could be building a fundraising plan, could be workshopping your personal story, could be just a vent sesh. I'm so down for it. But we also have trainings, right? So our training program, Run For It for State House this year, just kicked off tonight, actually. We had our
If you were not there because you were here, you can go to the next one.
Yeah. Tonight we just started with a State House 101 where we just went over like the basics, like what does the State House do, what does the state rep do, and then some like top line campaign stuff. Next week we're getting into building out your personal story, and really like that's when in-person workshops we can really like hands-on workshop your messaging. We've got one on campaign safety, how to be safe, cyber security, but also physical security when you're on the doors. That's one that's been requested a lot. We've got one about having an online presence, why it's important, how to go about it, how to do it strategically and in a way that's not going to just suck up all your time. We also have one that's just how to file. Like what is the paper that you have to put your name on? How much does it cost? It's $2.
I'll cover it for you, for any of you.
And what's the timeline? Where do you go? All of that stuff. We cover all of that. What am I missing?
I feel like you talked about like Canva too, even
God,
like
yes.
like which is like a little thing, but like it's when so many people are like, how would I make a flyer? I don't know how to make a flyer. You can help them with Canva.
And the one that I'm really excited about is our door-to-door canvassing training, which actually was an idea inspired by Jan Adelka of Dover. Shout out Jan. So the training is we're in a building where there's a lot of doors, and we're gonna have scenarios at all the doors. and you knock on the door and you do your canvassing like role play thing, and then you go to the next door, and it should be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about it.
That's so cool. We should talk about, like, I feel like I want to, like, I think a lot of people probably would want to do that even if you're not running, but like as we're getting into primary season and all this stuff, I think a lot of us are like, I've never done canvassing, but I intend to, obviously, now for the first time. So yeah, can I come?
Yeah, absolutely.
We are working on like a volunteer campaign support training too for folks who are like, I want to be the best campaign volunteer / maybe campaign manager for someone. And in addition to all those trainings that Beck talked about, we also offer our Ready, Set, Lead 2-day weekend training. It'll be in Concord this year, May 30th.
30th and 31st.
30th and 31st.
It is not Memorial Day weekend.
It is not Memorial Day weekend. But that is like really all of our digital trainings, the canvassing, the messaging, the storytelling, all of that a little bit expanded on day one with some more opportunity for breakout and practice. And then our second day session is really like diving into issues. We are going to invite some of our partner organizations and have different breakout sessions and panel groups to explore everything from school funding to reproductive equity to LGBT rights to voting rights, all of that stuff. So hopefully folks will leave with like a really solid campaign plan and also some good resources and connections they can go back to if they have any follow-up questions. So, and also like if there's a training that we should offer, we would love to also know about that. We're really excited to have expanded this year, but we also want to continue to like meet folks' needs. So if we don't have it currently, we can do it in like a one-on-one, but we can definitely like add it to our parking lot and make sure we offer that in the future.
So can we sign up for a mailing list to find out more about when you do volunteer trainings, or how can we find out more about how to get involved with you guys?
Yes, 6034.org, at 603forward on all social media. If you just go to our homepage and scroll down to the bottom, there's a spot where you can sign up for our newsletter. And 6034.org/run-for-office will have the complete training schedule, links to just talk to Beck and Kayla, all the information that you could need to know to run for office. And if you're really looking to get in touch, you have a very specific question, recruitment at 6034.org. It's a direct email that you can just like blast with any and all questions. We're happy to get back to you.
We have information on all our April events on this table over here and our social handles too. Some of those trainings information there.
There's info on the table over here for those who didn't hear it. So go grab some flyers and stuff like that. Any other questions from anybody back here? Yeah, go for it.
Silly question. How are you funded?
How are you funded?
It's a good question. It's a combination of private individuals and some also grant donors. We work really hard. We are an independent New Hampshire-based organization. We're not connected to a national org, so all of our funding comes from us hustling. And shout out to Chloe over here who works really hard, our operations and finance manager. But yeah, it's a combination of small individual donors and some grants as well. Thank
Great
you.
question.
Bridget.
Is there anything that like somebody could come to you and you would be like, okay, yeah, that does disqualify you?
Is there anything that is disqualifying?
We've heard some crazy things.
I mean, so it depends on the office. Generally speaking, you have to be 18 years or older. There are some residency requirements. I actually just learned recently that the state senate, to run for state senate in New Hampshire, has a longer residency requirement than running for U.S. Senate. Which
That tracks, honestly. Like, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah. And then there are some like disqualifying felonies. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but they, are a thing. And then, the other one is like, I think one that's happened more commonly is like about residency. Like if you don't live full time in your district or something like that, or if that becomes fishy or squishy, however you want to. That's one that's probably more common. Other things that disqualify you.
Yeah, I don't think It's really, like, I think those are the biggest. I can't think of any type of like professional, like conflict of interest type of.
Yeah, like
thing
if you
about
work for the state, you can't hold office, state office. There's some like, I know that like employees of Eversource, for example, have a big conflict of interest and don't typically that's a non-starter for them.
But what if you just like swear on the internet a lot? You know what I mean? Like, what if you're just like a rascal online? You know,
Rascal online.
I have to just as like a quick. My lore drop was that before, like, as I started, I have to be careful of how I talk about this because we're streaming. But before I started talking about politics more on social media, I was like having a moment where I was doing some influencer stuff for adult use cannabis products. And that was the first time somebody approached me about running for office, and I was like, maybe I do want to let you know there is this video of me on the internet, and there's a lot of them, and they didn't respond to me. But that's okay. Joke's on them. Now I got a show, so leave me alone. Now I got my own podcast.
You can talk about whatever you want here.
Exactly.
That is really actually so interesting, though. I didn't even think about, like, the Eversource thing really shocks me. Do we have any more questions?
Last call. One more from Bridget, then we'll wrap it up.
Just one? Okay.
They'll be here for a while after.
What level office do you, like, stop working with? Like, what level is too high?
Oh, yeah. What level office do you stop working with?
So, yeah, what's like out of my wheelhouse, I would say, is like probably any of the like federal races. And I, love to learn. Lifelong learner here. Would love to know more about how to run those and how to like change the game of running those kinds of campaigns. Like we're seeing some, I don't want to get it too far into it, but we're seeing some really cool new kinds of candidates in those races. That's really interesting to me, and I really love that. But I don't know a ton about it. So even like state senate is a little bit like, I can get you the answers. But yeah.
Cool. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We're so
Thank you.
grateful
This
for
was
your
so
time.
Run for office.
Run for office.
Yes. All right, guys, feel free to stick around, loiter for a bit. We'll all be here chatting. And tip your bartenders. Have a great night. We appreciate you guys all for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.